Manchester United need to hire Eddie Howe's Mags to complete their rat extermination because, well, they did a great job with the 11 on the pitch Monday night. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Newcastle United Digest, the channel delivering toon content in bite-sized chunks. My name is Adam Snyder, and in this episode, I will be covering Newcastle's 2-0 victory over Manchester United at Old Trafford on the 30th of December. This was Newcastle's last game of 2024, and they went out on a high note. I don't think it was one of their best performances this season, but it was definitely enough to get the job done and go into 2025 with some great momentum into another round of very congested fixture. And in this episode, I'll be covering both the first and second half and giving my reactions to what transpired in both of those halves, as well as give you my ratings by position. So without any further ado, let's dive right into it, shall we? And just like the last two games, Newcastle scored very, very quickly, and they were often attacking from the very first whistle. They scored another goal in the first 5 minutes of play. This is a third straight match where they've done this. The first one was Isak's goal 26 seconds in against Ipswich. The last game out against Aston Villa, Anthony Gordon scored 82 seconds into this game. And they were kind of slack in this game and only scored in the 4th minute of play. Isak starts us off with some beautiful hold-up play. He plays it off with Murphy and Bruno. And once Isak makes a quick pass back to Bruno, he's off to the races. Bruno finds Lewis Hall on the left-hand side wide open with nobody contesting him at all. And he's able to get a cross in for Isak. Isak was able to slot himself between Harry Maguire and Lisandro Martinez, and he was able to head the ball home without any challenge whatsoever. Afterward, both Maguire and Martinez were arguing about the mismarking, whose fault it was, and neither one of them really wanted to take blame for it. I'm sure that argument continued on well into the game and into halftime as well. And the second goal was just another opportunity for Newcastle to show just how well they can build out of the back and attack very quickly once they have the ball. Lewis Hall was able to get the ball to Bruno pretty quickly, and he was under a little bit of pressure from Christian Eriksen, but Bruno was able to make a quick cut, do a quick turn, get the ball to Sandro Tonali, make a quick run, do a nice little give and go with Tonali, and he is off to the races. These are not difficult plays to make, but when they're done very well, they're effective. This is a perfect example of how you can beat some pressure, especially against the press, and move forward and punish them for being so aggressive in their pressure. Bruno is able to find Anthony Gordon on the wing, and he takes on Mazraoui one-on-one. He beats the Man United right back and gets a cross in. And this time it's Joe Linton who makes the run and meets the cross, beating Martinez again to it. This ball hits Big Joe in the shoulder and it falls into the net. There was a VAR check for handball, but it was quickly cleared. One of the most brilliant things about this play was Alexander Isak playing dummy right in the 6-yard box. Everybody thought that this cross was going to be going to Isak because he's the most obvious target. But this time, after scoring the first goal, he was more than happy to play the decoy. Everybody thought that the cross was well marked, and it was not because nobody picked up Big Joe. And just like that, it's 2-0 after 19 minutes. There were chances galore throughout this first half. In between the two goals, you had Gordon missing on a Murphy cross that was really well placed, but Gordon just could not get a foot on it. He's only able to get his knee on it, and he wasn't able to control it into the net. There was another opportunity for Joelinton that he was not able to convert, unfortunately, but it was right after Anthony Gordon absolutely embarrassed Mazraoui on the left-hand side, was able to beat him down the flank, and then once he gets to the corner, megs him and cuts inside. He was able to get a cross off. It was cleared, but not very well. It went right to Joelinton, and he was not able to do a whole lot with it. But the fact that Gordon was able to get this cross off, it was a precursor to that second goal because Anthony Gordon knew that he had Mazraoui in his back pocket. And quite possibly the worst miss was Alexander Isak on a breakaway again. This has been a growing trend for Alexander Isak where he's scoring a lot of goals. I mean, he has 8 goals in the month of December alone, and he has 12 in the season. But at the same time, he's leaving a lot more on the table. And it's all coming on these one-on-one breakaway situations where these should be gimme goals for top strikers, and for whatever reason, he is flubbing every single one of them. This one, it was a long ball that was played by Bruno after an interception in the defensive third, and he sent Isak off to the races with nobody around him. Isak brings the ball in. I don't know why he didn't cut the ball more to center to give himself a better chance at goal. But once he got close to the goal, he tried to chip Onana, and the chip did nothing because Onana was just waiting there for Isak to do something, and he chipped the ball right into Onana's gloves. From my perspective, had he tried to cut inside a little bit more and give himself a little bit more angle on goal, he probably would have had a better shot. Or he tries to beat Onana between the legs, or go to his left foot and try to beat him far post anyway, regardless of the angle. Onana didn't come off his line, so he's still giving Isak a lot of the goal. But for whatever reason, Isak took the worst possible decision and flubbed it right into Onana's gloves. After the Joelinton goal, Newcastle had two good opportunities after that. One of them was Lewis Hall taking an Isak pass, taking one or two touches across to the top of the penalty area, and took a really good shot that kind of surprised Onana. It was a high riser that would have been going just underneath the crossbar, just over the crossbar. Onana took no chances, and he was able to make a good save. And the worst miss of the half goes to Sandro Tonali. After yet another amazing build out of midfield where Isak holds the ball up, he gets dispossessed, but Joelinton quickly recovers the ball. He carries and finds Tonali 30 yards from goal. Tonali passes the ball to Bruno, who finds Gordon streaking down the middle, one touch. Beautiful pass. Gordon leaves it on a back heel for Tonali at the penalty spot. Tonali takes one touch towards one of the posts, toe pokes it, and it goes right off the base of the post. I was watching this game with a friend, and neither one of us could believe that Tonali missed that goal. It was a wide open goal, and Tonali could not put it on net. Isak also had another disallowed goal. This time, the big Swede was 5 or 6 yards offside when he received a quick turn pass from Fabian Schär on a set piece. He took advantage of being wide open by rifling the shot, far post, top corner. Great hit, great finish, but it was quickly waved off. I find it a little annoying that Isak did the whole finger wave thing, complaining that it wasn't offside. Come on, man. Just own up to it. You were way offside. It wasn't even close. Just take it in stride, move on, get another chance, and bury it just as well as that one and make it count. As the half progressed, there was a lot of pressure being put on them by the Newcastle side, as well as the Old Trafford, quote-unquote, faithful. There was a lot of booing and jeering when they did something remotely close to being right. The most annoying part about this was the TV coverage here in the United States. The announcers we have are John Champion and Lee Dixon. John Champion is an absolute legend when it comes to English football announcing. He's had great calls in the Premier League, the FA Cup, the League Cup. I've grown up and listening to John Champion. He is an amazing play-by-play announcer. But the thing that annoyed me about him and Lee Dixon is that they were constantly talking about how poor Manchester United was and giving little to no credit about how well Newcastle was playing in the first half, especially. I talked to some of my friends in the UK, and they were saying the same thing about Sky's coverage as well. Once we got to halftime, the studio pundits were just as bad. They were constantly talking about how bad it was for Manchester United, not really giving a whole lot of credit, other than the fact that they said that the first half was more or less a training exercise for Newcastle United, and that was pretty spot on. In the second half, Eddie Howe's full throttle football was not on display at all. A lot of this half was spent defending the 2-0 lead, sitting back with 10 men behind the ball, waiting to pounce on the counterattack, and it was very taxing. It was very unlike Eddie Howe's response to other games during this run of form. It does lead to some incidents that could have been a lot worse. In the 59th minute, you had Harry Maguire put a diving header off the post, which was a beautiful attempt for him, but this was very poorly defended. Jacob Murphy was beat on the wing by Dallow, who was able to get a cross off, and it was pinged low across the 6-yard box. Maguire dives towards it and heads the ball off the post. This was the result of a Højlund dummy run along with Maguire in close vicinity to Fabian Schär. Tino Livramento had just come on for the injured Kieran Trippier, and he was caught in no man's land and could have done a better job to cover goal on this play. I'm not sure if this was his first real involvement in the play because he was just not up to speed yet or what, but this is another instance where Tino Livermento's positioning on a really good scoring chance was a little bit suspect. There was also some questionable set piece defending in this half as well. He had a free header off a corner that fortunately they couldn't do a whole lot with. It just went straight over the bar. And there was another corner that bounced in without a touch by anybody, made it past the first defender, and still touched down in the 6-yard box without a touch. If I'm Eddie Howe, if I'm Jason Tyndall, I'm demanding 100 quid in the kitty from every single person that was on the pitch during that attempt because there's no excuse for that ever happening. Other than this, not a whole lot transpired, but the level of defending that was required to not allow these chances to happen again was really taxing on our squad. I already mentioned that Kieran Trippier went off in the 58th minute, and those were the only fresh legs that came on in Tino Livermento's. The only other sub that Eddie Howe made was in the 85th minute, where he subbed out both of his wingers. Anthony Gordon came off for Harvey Barnes, and Jacob Murphy came on for Joe Willock. That was 40 minutes of really, really hard defending, and those are the only subs you make. That half was begging for fresh legs from about the 70th minute onward, and it took Eddie about 15 minutes too long to actually do it. Overall, the second half was very dire to watch, especially after the fireworks that Newcastle created in the first half. And that does play into my ratings that I give for the entire team. At goalkeeper, I'm giving Marty Dubravka a 9.5 out of 10. Dubs was beaten by the Maguire header, and that's the only reason he doesn't get a 10 out of 10. There were no shots on goal, but his play was immense in other areas. His ability to play the ball out of his feet, especially in high-pressure situations, was very, very clutch in times when Manchester United could have stolen a very cheap goal. Dubravka, over this really good run of form, has reestablished himself as Newcastle's number one, and I don't think Nick Pope is going to just walk back into the side and expect to start at this point. Dubravka has played too well to keep him out of the side. And for defense, I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10. A lot of this comes from something I did not talk about in the first half, and that was Fabian Schär's giveaway at the end of injury time that was inexcusable. Fabian Schär did the same thing to Man United that Aston Villa did to Joe Linton on Boxing Day. And fortunately, the results went in our favor because both sides were poor. Schär passed the ball straight to Manu. Manu passed it off to Casemiro, and he looped the ball far wide of the far post. This was not unlike the Joe Linton goal, as I mentioned, after the Villa giveaway. And just like that chance, Newcastle are very fortunate to be on the receiving end of some good fortune. Another reason why they get an 8 out of 10 for this game is Fabian Schär got his 5th yellow card, so he will miss the next match against Spurs. In fact, Schär will also be banned for the first leg of the League Cup against Arsenal because he received 2 yellows in consecutive games prior to that. That means we will be without Fabian Schär for 2 of the next 4 games, and let's hope that Sven Botman is healthy enough to come back and take his place. And in midfield, I'm going to give them a 10 out of 10 because they really could not do wrong in this game. They played well on the defensive side. Bruno was doing a great job to make interceptions, make tackles on the defensive side of the ball. Tonali was doing the same thing, and they were all getting involved in attack. They were playing brilliantly. They put on a masterclass in this game. On paper, this should have been a bigger challenge for this midfield, but whatever the issues are going on in the Manchester United dressing room, Newcastle's trio made quick order of them in the first half, and they did a really good job of defending in the second half. In fact, when they made it interceptions in the second half and cleared the ball, they did a really good job to give the back four some reprieve and recovery and regroup before the next attack came in. Forwards, I'm going to give them a 9 out of 10 this game. All 3 of them did well to contribute on scoring chances, with Gordon getting an assist and Isak getting a goal. But the missed chances in the first half and Murphy getting burned on the Maguire header in the second half, this brings the score down to a 9 out of 10. Set pieces are a 7 out of 10. I mentioned the 2 poorly defended set pieces in the second half, and we really didn't do a lot with the set piece opportunities that we did have. Kieran Trippier went for the Olympico twice on Onana in the first half, and he nearly succeeded on the first one. I don't know why he tried again for the second, but either way, they didn't concede anything. We didn't score anything. but we did give up some good chances on the defensive side. And for that reason, I give set pieces a 7 out of 10. For Eddie Howe's staff, I'm giving their substitutions a 4 out of 10. Eddie Howe let his team run ragged this game. The second half sub for Trippier was necessary only because of an injury, but it was extremely unnecessary to keep the remaining 9 outfield players together on the pitch for that long. The demanding effort was desperate for some fresh legs around the 70th minute, as I already mentioned, and Eddie did not make any chances for another 15 minutes. And the 2 changes he made were to players that I really think could have stayed on the pitch, and he should have been taking off somebody like a Joe Linton for Willock instead of one of the wingers for Willock. I don't think that that was a very good use of subs at all. This substitution score does bring down the average score for this game, but it's still a pretty good one, a 7.9 out of 10. The decisive scoring the first 20 minutes of the game set up Eddie Howe's Mags to just kind of coast through the rest of the game with a 2-0 lead. Fortunately, the opposition was so poor, nobody really seemed to notice, including the pundits who covered the game. Regardless of the quality and substitutions, Eddie Howe's Mags remain in 5th place for yet another match week. And that will do it for this episode of the Newcastle United Digest. If you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching. And be sure to give this a like and subscribe to the channel if you are not a subscriber yet. And if you really like this, be sure to share this with all of your friends in your group chats or wherever else you're talking about Newcastle United. Any chance to make a good first impression on a new face is very, very appreciated. And I'm looking forward to do that at any time. This will be my last video of 2024. So for all of you who have joined me on this journey so far, thank you. And I look forward to bringing you a lot more content in 2025. And if you have any video ideas on things that I should cover or things that I shouldn't cover, please let me know in the comments or send me a DM on socials. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, or Blue Sky. All of them, look for Newcastle United Digest or NUFC Digest. Chances are you'll find me. So until next year, this is Adam Snyder saying, "Away the lads." Bye for now.